All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to Historical Geology 1404. Today is Lecture 8. This is the last lecture of Module 2. Here in a couple days, we will be having our exam review, and then the exam 2 will open on Thursday. Okay? So please come prepared on Thursday with questions for that exam review. For my online students, hopefully you're watching this before Thursday, send me any questions that you have in an email prior to Thursday morning so that I can address them for the review, because this recording that I make for the review will be for you as well. Okay. Let's think about what else. There have been a couple more earthquakes around the world. Yeah, a couple of 6.0s or larger, except these ones were off of Japan. There were a few off of Guam, then there were a couple off of Japan. Made, I think the largest tsunami that came out of it was maybe 20 centimeters, not that big, not a problem. However, there were 2 nuclear reactors in proximity, and after the Fukushima incident of a few years back, they were real anxious about how this earthquake may have affected them, but it doesn't seem like there was any damage that could create any problems there, which is a blessing. Last thing we need is another nuclear incident that makes people not want to use nuclear energy, because I still firmly believe that a substantial part of our future energy economy is going to be relying on nuclear energy. And the more people feel good about that, the better, honestly. Let's see, what else? Oh, yes. It's not over. Is that what you were going to ask about? Okay, well, I'll come back to you in just a second. The government shutdown is not over. The Senate yesterday passed 60-40 to end it. However, that's only half of our government. What's the other half? No. There's the Senate, and then there is the House of Representatives. Congress is made out of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Collectively refer to them as the Congress, okay? So there are 100 senators, 2 from every state. 60 voted in favor of ending the shutdown. 40 voted against it. Granted, most of the 40 that voted against it were Democrats, but not exclusively so. Some Democrats, the ones that broke rank and went to the yes, end it side, were Democrats. And then a few Republicans were still voting no. Okay? So it ended 60-40. However, the House of Representatives still has to pass it. Okay? There are a number of representatives from each state based upon the population of that state. Okay? So there are significantly more of those. They're going to meet in session at some point soon. Don't know exactly when, and then they are going to vote. And if they vote to end the shutdown, then yes, the shutdown will be over after a new budget is approved. Okay, there's still a little bit more that goes into this, but it's the first vital step that needed to happen first. Had to pass through the Senate beforehand. So, that's, big news. I hope that happens. I hope the money starts flowing again, because, man, our country has been hurting for the last 40, what's the 11th? 41 days now? Yeah.
Can I interview you for my assignment?
Can you interview me for your assignment? For what's the topic?
Like Mars.
Yeah, sure. I'm down for that. Are you wanting to do that today? Today? Is that what you want to do? When?
After lecture.
After lunch?
Lecture.
Oh, after lecture? Yeah, we can do that after lecture. Sure. I'm always open for that. Like, use me however you need. Yeah.
It was supposed to be done.
Yeah, sure. About what?
I did.
Animal testing? Yeah, we can definitely do that. I have some information about that as well. I'm absolutely down for you guys to use me as a resource outside of just the bounds of geology, right? I have experience in so many things. I'm happy to share it. And I'm flattered that you wanted to ask. If anyone else has the same request, please feel free to ask as well. So I'll take care of both of you after lecture today during lab time. Sound good? Good deal. Okay. Any other comments or questions before we get started on our content today? None?
Sir, do you have like a specific schedule you get up at a certain time, when you're not coming to school, you know what I mean?
When I don't have to come into work?
Yeah, when you don't have to come into work.
I have woken up at 6 o'clock every morning for so long that I just naturally wake up at that time. The number of times that I accidentally sleep past 6 are extremely few. I also happen to have these 3 very, very useful, sweet biological clocks that live at my house with me that as soon as the sun is up, they want to come and wake me up too. So even on a weekend, if I even tried to sleep in, my children won't let me. Biological clocks, that's basically what they are. Sun's up, kids are up. Sometimes not even then. My daughter woke me up at 2:30 this morning, but that's because she had a nightmare. Normally when she has a nightmare, she has night terrors a lot, several times a week actually. I'm very sad for her, but normally what will happen is she'll come out of her room just like absolutely sobbing, and then I'll pick her up, I'll see if she needs to go potty, I'll sit with her on the toilet for a little bit, make sure that she does her business, and then I'll put her back in bed, and then I'll cuddle with her for about 15 to 20 minutes until she falls asleep. I'll very carefully get out of bed, and I'll sit next to her bed for another 20 or 30 minutes just to make sure that I didn't wake her up when I got out of bed, and then I'll go back to sleep in my own bed.
It's like a whole 2-hour process.
Huh? So did mine. My parents would say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Go to bed. Go back to bed." And it's not that they didn't love me. It's just that parenthood for that generation and parenthood for my generation are a little bit different. And in my case, I always err on the side of too much love rather than too little. That's just the way I've decided to do it. Tough love has its place, but not where compassion needs to be. That's just how I decided to do it. Okay. Anything else? Now that we've talked about burger recipes, interviews, earthquakes, and parenthood. Oh, we were talking about burger recipes before you came in. Yeah.
You microwave and hot dog.
You microwave. Okay. Okay. Well, hold on. Okay. So I don't want to. We got to get to our lesson at some point. But on the subject of cooking a hot dog, microwaving is fine in a pinch.
I never said that. He did say
I personally prefer to pan fry my hot dogs, but that's because I like them to have that little bit of a crunchy outside. You can also boil them. That's how you make hot dogs. Like that's how people make hot dogs. Like when they need a lot of them, you just boil them. Like you buy them from a hot dog vendor on the side of the road. They're sitting there in a boiler. Yeah. That's how. That's like if you ever bought hot dogs at like a baseball game or something. That's how they make them because they need to make 100 at a time. They'll just throw them all in boiling water for 20 minutes or less. Way less usually. Yeah, it's hot dog water. Yeah, that's literally all it is. It's gross. As far as a burger goes, I'll tell you, okay, because there were questions, I'm going to say, and this is where we're going to end it, okay? I'm going to give you my favorite burger recipe for the people that weren't here, and then we're going to move on to the lecture, okay? Here we go. All right, so you get some Angus beef, make a very thin patty. You mix a little bit of egg in there to make sure that it keeps its cohesion, right? Make a very, very thin patty, about half the size that you think a burger should be. Take a wheel of brie cheese and slice off a piece. Put it right there in the middle. Brie is very soft, white, flavorful cheese. Then you put another equally sized, very thin patty on top of that and press it together to make one patty around the cheese in the middle. Then you cook that just with some salt and pepper as seasoning. Get a brioche bun, scrape some mayonnaise on one side, scrape some basil pesto on the other. If you're feeling adventurous, put some thinly sliced apple on one of those. And then you put your burger on there and bon appetit. That's my favorite kind of burger. It's very sweet and savory. Huh? I can make you some. It's an expensive venture. I only make that a few times a year because it's pretty expensive, and I only do it for occasions usually, like if my parents are in town.
You should
Right?
get the stuff and we pay you for it.
Hey, if you guys wanted to put together a pool of money, I would absolutely make you burgers.
How much money are
How
you
much is it really like around like
I'll
cost?
pay like
Let's see. Getting really nice burger meat for a class this size would probably be about $50 of meat, assuming one burger per person, which is probably all that we would want to do. And then, let's see, the brie would probably be another 20-something. The bread would be another 20-something. All things considered, we're probably looking at about $100 to give each of you one burger.
$5 each. That's not bad.
$5 each.
There's 20 of you in the class.
Or we could do like 50, 25.
The other tricky thing is, though, I couldn't just, like, cook them in the classroom.
Bro, just bring a grill to class.
I can't cook in here.
Why not?
Do you see a fume hood anywhere?
Well, we go to the balcony.
You can't open those.
Sir, but there's like a plug-in, like, you know, like that, the plug-ins on the table.
Electric grill.
We can go to the balcony.
Does not eliminate the fumes. Okay, I said I was going to give you the recipe and then we were going to move on. My poor online students have been listening to this aimless conversation for like 15 minutes now.
Online student, I'll be, heck yeah, this is I want a class just based
Hey,
on
sir,
that.
I'm totally understanding that we're tired of just holding our coaching. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So today we're covering food sciences, Mars, and the fossil record. All right, that's what we're doing in class today. If you guys really wanted me to make you burgers, it would have to be something we do outside of class time, like for our movie night. Oh, I'd have to cook them outside, though.
You go outside.
We could get a big
Sure. You guys enjoy the movie. I'll be outside making you food.
sign. We'll put a big projector on the side of the building.
Who's winning the vote?
Like you can take like camping.
And I have those. I just don't have permission to do that here.
Hey.
Yes. I can use this classroom however I want within the bounds of legality. I don't have permission to use any other facility anywhere else on campus. Everything's legal until somebody snitches? Is that the Gen Z mentality? What's going on? Okay.
Wait, who's winning the vote?
Who's winning the
For
vote?
the movie.
Oh, right now it's still solid Jurassic Park. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, last I checked, it was like 20 to 15 Jurassic Park Ice Age.
It's between Ice Age and
Don't, that's not what I was doing, okay? What is happening right now?
Hey guys, you guys see who's doing this?
No. Don't clip that. No, that's not what that was. Don't clip that. All right. Let's start with a conversation.
Sounds good.
Oh, did something?
Are we okay? Are you laughing at me? What did I do?
This is like the best way class to start. because-
I know. I love the energy. Let's keep it up.
What's the third?
Yes. Well, I really couldn't stop you, so.
You ever stream?
Give me a portion of whatever revenue comes out of that. All right. Okay. All right. Let's start by talking about Charles Darwin. Have you guys heard about Charles Darwin? Yeah? What do you know about Charles Darwin?
I just know his name. He came up with.
Okay. Natural selection. What is natural selection? Hmm?
That
Huh?
some physical features when an animal helps it to survive.
Okay. It has to do with survivability. Absolutely.
The traits that like survive.
The traits that survive. Okay, so we talked about something called inherited traits last time, right? Or the time before that, actually, is when we talked about that. Last time we talked about correlation of the fossil record. Inherited traits are things that stick around from generation to generation. Presumably because they are useful in for some reason or another. Okay, they give an advantage. Great. Okay, Charles Darwin is the person who we primarily attribute the development of the theory of evolution to, which has a heavy component of natural selection in it. Huh? That's good? Yeah, good. Okay. Today we're talking about evolution and mutations and stuff. Now I'm going to remind everyone that nothing I teach in this class is meant to persuade you or dissuade you from any previously held belief. You've heard me say that before. There are plenty of particularly religious denominations out there that have a hard time with the concept of evolution. I'm going to teach you evolution as we understand it today, not attempt to take you away from anything that you or your family have beliefs in. Okay, that's not my purpose here today. Just remember that, please. There have been occasions in the past when I've gotten a phone call from an angry parent. Like, hey, why are you teaching my... Because that's the science. I'm a science teacher. Okay? Chill out. All right? So, he was a naturalist. A naturalist is someone who doesn't necessarily specialize in any one particular field. You remember that? We talked about this before. We talked about a few naturalists. Georges Cuvier and others like him. Charles Darwin, he had his fingers in so many different pots. He would talk about geology, he'd talk about biology and chemistry and physics, and he would tie them all together. These things, a very holistic approach to, yeah, she came to the wrong door. a very holistic approach to science, which is great because science works best when it is collaborative, okay? So people like Charles Darwin, who make a very big impact in the scientific community, often do so because they take the time to try and understand multiple fields of science. If you spend your time studying one thing, sure, you're an expert in that one thing, but it's at the cost of not knowing how it works with other things as well, right? If I spent my whole life manufacturing paper clips, I spend 45 years of my career only worried about making paper clips into this distinctive paperclip shape. I miss out on a whole bunch of other things in life, right? Where does that metal come from? I don't care as long as it's in front of me to make a paperclip, right? Sure, that might be fulfilling to someone, but they don't actually understand the whole process. And there's a lot that goes into that, okay? All right. So he asked some very important questions. Why are there some animals in one place but not everywhere else? If the earth was created by a deity 6,000 years ago, then why are there only animals here and here instead of everywhere? Why are elephants present here and not everywhere else? Why are camels present here and not everywhere else? Why are aardvarks present here and not everywhere else? Started asking these important questions. The distribution of species, okay? In particular, he was interested in the Americas. There is this very, very thin stretch of land called Panama that connects North and South America, right? Why are there such wildly different animals here than there are in South America? And also, by the same token, there are a few animals that are eerily similar to each other, but not all of them. Why some but not all? Very important questions. Then he went to these islands called the Galapagos Islands. Have you ever heard of the Galapagos Islands? No? Today, it is a protected preserve. That means that absolutely no one is allowed to go there, let alone set foot on any of the islands without a special permit. Primarily because of the discoveries he made there, the observations he made there. He went there on a ship called the Beagle. Okay? The Beagle. He went to the Galapagos Islands, and he made some observations about some of these islands here. It's a volcanic island chain, by the way. Okay? So he went there and he found that there are these very large tortoises. As a matter of fact, the largest tortoises in the world live on the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos tortoise. I've seen Galapagos tortoises whose shells are that high off the ground, and they're about almost somewhere between 5 and 6 feet long.
So they're pretty massive.
They're huge. Why indeed? Evolution, my friend, okay? They also get to live to be about 150 years old, these tortoises. Yeah.
You happen to have a bottle opener on it?
A model?
A bottle opener.
A bottle opener. Is it a squeeze? Is it a twist off?
Watch the door right here.
You gotta break it open.
Is that Aura?
That's aura. Oh my god.
Got you, buddy.
I don't even think the camera.
Okay. Where were we? Galapagos tortoises. Biggest in the world. Lived to be 150 years old. Actually, so I have some friends who have a breeding pair of sulcata tortoises, they're called. West African spurred tortoises is another name for them. They also live to be about 150 years old. They are actually the third largest species in the world. They don't get quite as big as the Galapagos tortoise. They'll get about maybe 3.5 feet tall, maybe 4 feet long. But they have a breeding pair of them, and they're getting ready to lay another clutch of eggs here pretty soon. And my friends promised me one of the hatchlings for my office over here. So I'll have, by the time I retire, it'll probably be about that big. But my grandkids will be able to keep this tortoise because of how long it lives, right? Where am I going to put it? In my office space over here until it's too big. And then I'll have to put it outside.
You're gonna put it in his backyard.
Yeah, it'll live in my backyard, wherever that is.
When?
It's going to be like 30 years before it's that big, you know?
How long until you get that tortoise?
Whenever the eggs hatch. They haven't even laid the eggs yet. We believe that the female is pregnant. It's difficult to tell with tortoises though, because you don't watch them, so you don't know when they get down, right? And so you don't know when they're pregnant or not until they lay eggs, right? So whenever they lay eggs, just a couple months later, I'll have a little baby spur tortoise, and they're so cute too. They're this big, and they're bright yellow and just very, very pretty. Okay. So, back to these Galapagos tortoises, though. He went from island to island and saw there are tortoises, I should say, on every island, but they're slightly different. This one has a more vertical neck and ridges on its back. This one has a less vertical neck and a more rounded shell. This one has a horizontal neck, and its shell is full of all of these sort of bubbles and ridges. He observed that every single island, every single had a very different type of tortoise on there. And yet they're all so similar to each other, they must have come from the same ancestor. How many of you look exactly like your siblings? It's very rare. Even the closest twins will usually have a birthmark or something that separates them from each other. One will have slightly worse vision or something along those lines. So it's not that difficult to tell or to believe that you can get very slight variations over time from a common ancestor. And here we are. We have the Galapagos Islands where this is clearly shown. Our tortoises, very slight differences from each other, but obviously coming from the same source. He asked, why? I'm going to ask you why too, but first I'm going to give you another example to help you find that answer. The finches. Have you guys ever heard of a finch?
Yeah.
What's a finch?
Aren't they like little birds?
Yeah, they're birds. Good. Finches are kinds of birds. Now, the Galapagos Islands also have finches. And wouldn't you know it, the finches on each island are different from each other. Slightly different. On one island, finches have a very small, sharp, narrow profile beak. On a totally different island, they have a very large, robust, strong beak. Why do you suppose difference in beaks?
The food sources there?
What about the food sources?
Like if there's like little worms, like they could have smaller beaks so they can get into the dirt or stuff, and then like for the bigger beaks, like if there's like nuts or something.
Bingo! There it is. I've never been more proud. Okay, good. Yes, the food source. And a food source is an example of what?
The environment.
The environment, yes. You get a change in the environment, and it's going to require a change in your life there. Right? Why do I say require it? What's going to happen if my environment changes? There's something that goes down and life does not change. What happens? It dies. Change, adapt, or die. That's the nature of life, my friends. You and I adapt all the time. I just took off a sweater. I was a little too hot. I adapted to my environment. Maybe I'll put back on again later. I don't know. I'll adapt. Birds have to do that. Tortoises have to do that. So now let me ask you, why such variety in the tortoises and birds and all the other forms of life on these islands?
The environment they have around them that has them to change so they can survive.
The environment on every island is slightly different.
Last lecture,
Are you asking to go use the restroom? Oh, okay.
Last lecture, there was like something that's like you adapt or you die or something.
Yes, exactly. That's what it comes down to. You adapt or you die. And it sounds brutal, but my friends, that's nature. Nature has laws. One of the laws is you cannot stop the change. If you live in that environment where something is changing, you adapt or the environment runs you over. Okay? Small beaks. Perfect for catching bugs, particularly the flying bugs. If your diet consists of mosquitoes or moths or something like that, you have to have a small aerodynamic beak perfect for catching those things. If your diet consists of thick nuts or seeds, right, you need to have a beak that's large enough and strong enough to crack that seed open. So here's the theory. At some point, a flock of finches gets blown to the Galapagos Islands in a storm. There's really no other way they could have gotten there. Okay? They get blown there, carried there by a storm. As time moves on, these finches begin to repopulate and move from island to island. On each island, each environment is slightly different. Maybe one island has a lot of seed-bearing plants. Another island has a lot of flying insects. You cannot be a finch with a very thick, heavy beak that goes and catches flying bugs. It does not work. That finch dies out. But you know what doesn't? The finches with the smaller beaks. And so here it happens. It starts to happen. Mutation. A finch with a slightly smaller beak than the rest, because of a mutation, is more successful in the environment where you need to catch bugs. Because it is more successful, it lives longer, has a better life. It passes its genes off through offspring more often. Those offspring survive better than the offspring of other competing finches until your population on this island is entirely small-beaked finches. And then the same thing happens on the islands where you need a big beak for those nuts. What about the tortoise shells? Maybe one type of tortoise spends more time in the water than the others. Maybe it's even more simple than that. Maybe it's a matter of sexual preference. Maybe on this island, or this island, let's use this one as an example, the lady tortoises are like, you know what? I like that shell a lot better, right? That's absolutely something. Does that happen in our species? Yeah. Right? How many, I mean, I don't mean to call anyone out here, but dudes, how many conversations have you had with your buddies where it's like, oh, green eyes, man. Whoo, gets me every time. Something like that, right? Everyone has some kind of preference. Green eyes, blue eyes, blonde hair, black hair. Everyone has a preference. It happens in our species. It happens in nature too, right? That's why some species, think of the peacock with those big feathers on the back. Do you know why those are there? To attract a mate. The bigger the plumage, the more attractive you are as a potential mate. Happens all the time. It could be something as simple as that or something having to do with its environment. Okay? All right, so this is what Darwin contributed. His observations about these things and what drives them. And what is it that drives them? Natural selection. Natural selection. Survival of the fittest, some people compare this to. However, I want to kind of eradicate the thought process in there. Survival of the fittest is not always true. What does that mean? If I say survival of the fittest, what do you guys think?
The strongest one wins?
Yeah, the strongest one wins. Is that always true? What do you think, Aaliyah? Does a strong one always win? You think so? If that were true, then the 6'4" jock at my wife's high school would have had kids with her instead of me.
That's crazy.
If that were true, then the dinosaurs, the largest, most successful group of animals on our planet, would not have died. If that were true, primates that started being able to fit in a teacup would not be the apex predator on our planet right now. If that were true, bacteria still would not be here. So, survival of the fittest may work well in a general context, but is it at its core fundamentally true? No. It's a simplification of the concept of adapt or die, basically. Survival of the fittest does not mean the biggest or strongest. It means the most adaptable. Survival of the most adaptable is how I want you to think of that. We adapt like nothing else on this planet ever has. And here we are. Our survival on this planet only is dependent upon how much we continue to adapt in the future. All right, so that's natural selection. However, due to our continued interest in understanding the ways of nature and the ways that nature causes change, we have been able to introduce to our world something that I call artificial selection. Artificial selection. Basically, we choose what a successful trait is. I give you an example here on the screen of how we have done that. How many of you have a dog or ever had a dog? How many of you don't like dogs? I'm ambivalent. I had one as a kid. I definitely don't want to have one right now. Kids are enough. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you don't know what I'm saying, but you get the idea, okay? Kids are enough. Dogs, though. I would almost guarantee none of you have the exact same breed of dog as each other. I think that's probably statistically true. There are hundreds of breeds of dogs, probably thousands at this point, actually, if I'm being honest. Thousands of breeds of dogs in the world. Do you know where they come from? Yeah, absolutely no species of dog is naturally occurring. Dogs themselves did not evolve out of nature. We made them. Dogs did not exist 10,000 years ago. Wolves. Who said wolves? Wolves existed. At some point in our past, somebody adopted a wolf pup. Wolves were predators, right? They would hunt humans, humans would hunt them. At some point, some human decided, you know what? Here's a baby wolf pup. I'm going to take it in and raise it like a pet. Pets existed long before that. We had domesticated animals for a long time, okay? What? What type of domesticated animals? Goats, cows, oxen, sheep. Yeah, chickens. I mean, we've domesticated animals for a very long time, okay? And we have a lot of them now. As a matter of fact, interesting statistic, yeah.
If dinosaurs still existed, do you think we would be able to domesticate them?
If dinosaurs had survived, or that asteroid had never hit, you and I would not be here right now. That's a side tangent, but I'll address it. At the time of the dinosaurs, mammals were essentially small rat-like animals that lived underground or in trees and only came out at night. Only because dinosaurs went extinct and their niches were left open were mammals able to take the stage. We would have stayed relegated to third fiddle. We weren't even second fiddle. We were third fiddle if the dinosaurs had survived. Here's an interesting theory. The most intelligent type of dinosaur that we can find evidence of was likely the Velociraptor, which is why modern media like the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies show them as being very intelligent. They were, as far as we can tell, based on their brain size and how developed certain parts of their brains were from the empty space inside the skulls that we find. Probably somewhat intelligent. I would not go anywhere near saying that they were human intelligent. Probably somewhere between dog and dolphin intelligent, which was way more intelligent than the mammals were at that time. Imagine with me for a moment what evolution might have done with them if an asteroid had not come and wiped them out. Imagine if evolution had 65 more million years to work on velociraptors.
They could have become the new humans.
In an alternate timeline, maybe velociraptors rule the galaxy by now. Interesting thought. However, the asteroid did come, it did wipe them out, and here we are. So, at this point, moot theory, irrelevant for science, but interesting to think about. Wolves, though. This human raises this wolf pup. This wolf pup has this sort of general loyalty. It perceives this human as being maybe a parental figure. However, it's still a wolf. Have you ever touched a wolf? Short, bristly, spiky hair. Long, sharp teeth. Aggressive. Instinctually aggressive. Bite the hand that feeds you sort of aggressive. You need to be careful with a wolf. But that wolf has pups. Maybe you raise multiple wolves. Maybe this person realized, hey, this wolf is really useful in hunting. Neighbor, you should raise a wolf too. So they go get themselves a wolf pup. Eventually, you start having this community of wolf owners. These wolf owners start to crossbreed wolves with each other. And they realize, wait. When this one and this one had babies, those babies came out with shared traits. They had the mother's slightly softer fur. They had the father's eye color. Maybe a few generations down the line, they introduced a new wolf in there, and the result was wolves with slightly shorter teeth. And you start to realize we can control what traits pass down based upon which offspring or which parents you have breed with each other. And thus begins the creation of artificial selection. Shorter hair, longer hair, softer fur, smaller teeth, sweeter natures, longer tongues, bigger ears, floppier ears. A million preference choices later, we have the dog species we have now. How is it possible that a Great Dane, a St. Bernard, and a Chihuahua all came from the same common ancestor? Our choices, artificially selecting. Yeah?
What wolf was small enough to like crossbreed to make it long?
Oh, Chihuahuas are very far removed from wolves. Basically, you make choice after choice after choice after choice. Some people favor smaller dogs. Some people favor smaller barks. And eventually you end up with two different types of lineages that you come together. And the result of that, when you breed them together, is a Chihuahua. Technically speaking, a Chihuahua and a Great Dane are capable of breeding with each other. They are the same species. They are not physically capable of doing so. They are genetically capable of doing so. Okay? That's how far removed they are. Huh?
Have they done that yet?
No. They are not physically capable of doing so.
Why not? Bro.
Because a Chihuahua is about the same size as something the Great Dane would use. Would not work. Okay? So, another example that you all are much more familiar with maybe, that I have had in this classroom. Diablo. My python. He is the product of artificial selection. And as a matter of fact, I am preparing to artificially select in the future. I chose Diablo specifically when I got him for his genetics. He has a set of genetics in him that when combined with other genetics will make really cool looking offspring. He has the traits fire and leopard and het clown, all of which are good, but together are unique.
And his offspring will also be like him, where they don't snap, or they don't have
He's a sweet guy. He's never once snapped at me. I just got Medusa, my brand new little girl python, little female, okay? She has Pastel and Hurricane and Het Clown. Now, Pastel and Fire are both color and enriching genes, so their offspring are going to have very bright colors. Hurricane and Leopard are the types of pattern that they have. Their offspring are either going to have one or the other, or a very rare combination of both. Het Clown is a variation on those patterns, both parents will have Het Clown, so all of the offspring will have Het Clown, because both parents have it. Genetics is dictated by these traits, and we can choose by mapping those traits in generations what traits are going to come out. Okay? So in a couple years when I breed these two snakes together, I'm going to get some pretty cool combinations because of the traits I specifically chose and the individuals I got. Artificial selection. Interesting, no? Now, there is this big misconception that natural selection, evolution, is always building up to some big ultimate being. The most powerful, coolest, best survivability individual or species in existence. Fiction likes to make that out to be. A lot of people believe that we are that apex of evolution. That is massively hubristic in my opinion. I don't believe that's the case. That is a big misconception. We are not the apex of evolution, nor is there an apex of evolution. Evolution is a process of changing based upon what is most favorable in your environment at that given time, which means it only ever makes things good enough. Things are only ever just barely good enough to survive in that environment. The environment changes, balances off again, you got to change again. Okay? That's the nature of evolution. There is no pinnacle, there is no perfection in the future. Only just barely balanced good enough. Okay? Every now and then, evolution, it doesn't backpedal, but it progresses forward. All right.
Are we supposed to leave?
Yeah, we gotta go.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Yeah, leave your stuff here. All right, so that was a fire drill. I paused it. So it'll be picking up right where... I didn't want to waste everyone's time like that. I didn't know how long we were going to be outside. There was a fire drill. We did it. We win. Huzzah. Everyone did what they were supposed to. Thank you for leaving everything behind. Okay, let's pick back up. Vestigial organs. These are things which are the result of evolution. And by the way, everything about all of us is a result of evolution. Bless you. But they are aspects of evolution, so parts of you, or other things, that are no longer required because of the environment we live in. Legs on snakes being one example.
That'd be terrible.
No.
That's a lizard.
No, it's not. Okay? So, lizards and snakes diverged quite a while back. Okay? There are some snakes, entire species, that still have little nubs where their legs should be, like this. Yeah. Anacondas and some boas actually have these little legs. They still use them every now and then for clasping while mating and things like that. But, you know, in a million more years, they won't even have that. They are holdouts. They are leftovers. No longer necessary, and so fading away from their gene pool. Yeah, sure. Wisdom teeth. Have any of you ever had your wisdom teeth taken out? You have? Okay, me too. Wisdom teeth are the teeth that grow in your late teen years at the very back of your mouth. Half the time, they come in crooked, which is why we get them taken out a lot of the time. You don't have any? That's something that I'm coming down to. Okay? Half the time, they will grow in crooked, and so you need to remove them so they don't cause any permanent damage.
By late teen years, do you mean like 18 or 19?
Yeah, about there. They'll start growing in a little before then.
Oh, I'm 16 right now, so...
You should probably check and see how they're coming in next time you see the dentist. Okay? So, we no longer need them. They were used as additional chewing molars when we would eat things like raw grain and seeds millions of years ago. We no longer need them because we eat so many more refined things. It's been a long time since we've had to chew whole grain. Okay? So they are vestigial, yes. They are larger molars, basically, is what it comes down to. Extra chewing power at the back of your mouth before you swallow your food is what it would do. Don't need it anymore. So they are genetically, how do I put this, damaged, which is why they come in crooked half the time now and why we take them out. However, you're sure you don't have any?
I don't feel nothing.
Okay, so that's not the same thing. There are people, plenty of people out there now, who simply never grow them. The gene for growing them has switched off because it is no longer necessary in the environment. This happens as time goes on. Human appendix. Most people now are born with an appendix still, but an appendix is an organ that gives your body enzymes for breaking down raw meat. We don't eat raw meat anymore and haven't for a long time. We no longer need the appendix. More and more people, every generation, are being born without an appendix because we haven't needed it in our gene pool in so long. Yeah,
So I could eat raw meat and kind of thing.
you're more likely to get sick and die
If I
because
could-
if you don't have an appendix.
But if I do it,
If you do, I wouldn't recommend it still. Right?
Because it's not it's not like how it used to be. Not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a matter of fact, do you know what appendicitis is? Appendicitis is a condition you can get when your appendix gets ruptured. Okay? It is not used, and sometimes it can develop an infection or something like that. What's up? You're smiling at me like there's a joke. No? Okay. You telling jokes about me again? I'm just kidding. No, it's okay. I'm just teasing you, Remy. I'm just
Is
teasing you.
it common to rupture? Or?
It's not common, but it's also not uncommon to hear about it. Is it likely to happen to you? I'd say maybe 1 in 10. But I guarantee you know somebody who has had appendicitis, right? It's common enough that it's out there everywhere, but less likely than it is likely. However, because of the nature of the enzymes in your appendix, if it ruptures and spills those enzymes in your stomach, you essentially poison yourself with toxins and you can die. So that's why if you ever have that intense like abdominal pain when you get older, they will often say, hey, go to the doctor. Like if it doesn't go away after a day or two, go to the doctor. You may have a distorted appendix and you want to get that taken out before it ruptures, right? So, but more and more people every generation are being born without those. It's something that's disappearing from our gene pool. These are examples of vestigial items. It's not evolution backtracking. It is evolution progressing past something that was needed before. Okay? So, some rules to remember, okay? Evolution does not in any way seek to explain how life began. This is a massive misconception. Evolution, no aspect of evolution ever tries to explain how life began on our planet. That's something totally different. We already talked about that earlier on in our class. We talked about panspermia, the theory that life could have begun somewhere else. We talked about life beginning here, Terrigenous, okay? And how that would have happened. But it's not through evolution, it's through chemistry. Evolution is simply how life changes over generations and within populations. Okay? So throw away that misconception. Another thing. It doesn't account for every change. Taking off my sweater earlier was not an aspect of evolution, right? But I still adapted to my environment. Jackson is going to get older. His hair is going to turn white. He's going to get all bent over. He's going to develop these weird spots on his skin. That's not evolution. That's age. We call that ontogeny, a change within an individual over time. Okay? So obviously changes can happen without evolution getting involved here. It's important to remember the scale there. Evolution happens over time within the generations. Okay? And then also, there's something called Dollo's Law. Dollo's Law is that evolution does not reverse itself. There is no one at the wheel. Evolution is a hodgepodge of random mutations, some of which stick, some of which don't. Which means that there cannot be a conscious choice to go backward. Let me give you an example. Feathers. Hold on a second.
I apologize for interrupting, it's his fault.
I think
All right, that was my department chair.
okay. We were wrong.
Talk about just a quick check-in on how that drill went. Everything's good. All right. Where was I? Dole's Law. Okay. Feathers. Have you guys ever seen a picture or a toy of a dinosaur from the 70s or the 80s? No? Big, chunky lizards with their tails dragging behind them. And have you ever seen a picture of like a T-Rex or a Velociraptor that's been produced in the last decade? They have something on them. They have feathers on them. You know why? Over the last decade and a half or so, we've started putting more and more feathers on the dinosaurs. Because we have found fossils of dinosaurs with feathers from earlier. There are fossils of dinosaurs that had feathers in the early Jurassic. So no longer are we under the mistaken assumption that feathers evolved on birds. They evolved on dinosaurs. And because birds are the descendants of dinosaurs, they kept it. Okay? So what does this mean? We have to assume that because birds have feathers now, and that there are dinosaurs with feathers in the early Jurassic, the dinosaurs in between, at least the theropod dinosaurs, the ones that are the ancestors of these birds, had feathers. At no point, according to Dorlow's law, could feathers have adapted, gone away, and come back. Evolution does not reverse itself. Okay? That's why you're starting to see all these dinosaurs with feathers on them. It's an important concept. Evolution cannot reverse itself, but we can skirt around this law. I'm going to show you some examples of how later on today. Here is an example, though, of Dollo's law, moving forward, not backward. Here is an armadillo. You guys have seen dead armadillos on the side of the road. We live in Texas, right? No?
I haven't. Maybe that's just because I haven't been.
Right.
I haven't started driving.
Drive through Texas in 45 minutes in any direction, and you'll probably find a dead armadillo somewhere on the side of the road. Okay? This is what they look like now. You get about that long. This is what armadillos looked like back in the middle of the last ice age.
Oh, that one dinosaur.
It's not a dinosaur.
With the tail.
It's not a dinosaur. That's a mammal. That's an armadillo. That's the ancestor of the armadillo. Okay?
Actually, it has like a cat face.
He has a what?
Cat face.
A cat face? Yeah, I can kind of see that. But you can also see how it's just a shorter, stubbier version with smaller ears of that face. The shell, still there. Only segmented here at the base of the tail instead of here. Spike tail, spike club, not there anymore. Also, this was the size of an SUV. Not the case anymore. At no point in the future will these ever go back to those. Sucks? Well, maybe. It's good for us, though. No SUV-sized club-tailed armadillos walking around, right?
Sweet.
So,
Probably
they
get like
didn't evolve from that one dinosaur with their club.
No. Absolutely zero relation. Zero connection to that dinosaur. However, what you've pointed out here is a niche. A space available in an environment that a certain body type is favorable for. Ankylosaurs, like what you're talking about, the big armored club-tailed dinosaurs, occupied that niche for the dinosaurs. You know what occupied that niche only a few million years ago? Those guys. Similarity in body design. Okay? That's an important concept that I'll come back to in a little bit. Okay? Here's a sloth. This is what sloths look like today. You guys ever seen a sloth like at a zoo or something?
Yeah.
Good. This is what they looked like before. No. I used to work with the skeletons of these at a museum I used to work at about a decade ago. If this guy was standing up and sitting down on his tail, but he was, like sitting up like a dog would, his head would be at the ceiling. That's how big sloths used to be.
Why is everything so big?
We call it the megafauna. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sure. You're over here in the corner. When I'm really into it, it's hard for me to see over there. Yes. Sloths will never go back to that. What's the one characteristic about a sloth that you think of when I say sloth?
Slow.
They're slow. Why are they slow? I guarantee these guys weren't slow. These guys were deadly, right? They could swat a saber-toothed tiger out of the air, right? If you tried attacking them. Why this? What happened? Why are they so slow? Do you think it's a major evolutionary adaptation to be that slow?
Maybe because they hang on to stuff a lot.
They spend a lot of their time in trees. That's very true. That's a big part of the reason why they can afford to be slow.
Oh, it's because they don't move and they don't like they lost the need to move.
Metabolism. You and I, we eat food, we metabolize it, we generate body heat, we make energy for us to move as quick as we need to, as fast as we're capable of physically. Okay? Sloths only eat plants. Their metabolism is very slow. They don't generate as much energy as we do. And yet they are still mammals. Small ones. They have traded off the ability, the need for lots of food to make that much energy in favor of not needing as much energy to move as quickly. So they can eat slower and less. As a matter of fact, sloths only poop and pee about once a week because of how little they eat at any given time. And by the way, it's funny, they will actually climb down out of the tree to go to the ground to poop and pee and then go back up. They never do it in the tree.
Why not?
Great question. Ask a sloth.
Poop on some tiger walking by.
Yeah, right? Just piss off the passing tiger and it climbs the tree to eat you.
This might be, I might be thinking of koalas. But don't sloths sometimes just fall out of the tree and die because of how little they eat?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, do you want to talk about koalas? Ugh, koalas are dumb. No, and I'm not even joking. Like, legitimately dumb. You ever heard the term smooth brain? Like, you call someone a smooth brain? You ever use that? You're calling someone stupid. It's the wrinkles on our brain that hold a lot of the neurons that possess complex thought. Koalas have smooth brains for real.
Oh, I remember. There was like this channel that makes animations on animals, like explaining animal traits.
Mm-hmm.
There is this koala one, and he gets served a salad, but he's like, "Where's my food?"
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and then it's like they put a stick in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything on a stick is food to them.
This is how dumb they are, okay? They eat eucalyptus leaves, which, by the way, are poisonous. Great choice, koalas. They have to digest their food over 24 hours or else it poisons them. But you take eucalyptus leaves off of the tree and you put it on a plate in front of them, they do not recognize that it is food. Why is my camera over here again? Hi. Over here. Come on. I'm right here, buddy. What are you doing? Hello. I'm right here. Hold on. Let me figure out what's going on here. They don't recognize that it's food. They will just walk all over it and ignore it. Right here. Come on. What's the deal?
Maybe getting closer to it.
There we go. All right. Okay. Yeah, koalas are dumb. Pandas, also super dumb. Pandas are so dumb, they don't even know how to breed with each other. We literally have to force them to do it or they would go extinct. This is my viewpoint. Let them go extinct! They're so dumb. Okay. Huh? I'm so mad. Well, they should have gone extinct thousands of years ago.
Professor Hart, this is gonna go on YouTube. You're about to get canceled.
Because I say let pandas go extinct?
Yeah, everyone.
No. Pandas aren't going extinct because of what we've done to them. They would have gone extinct without us. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay. they had already gotten sliced off the evolutionary block. All right, they were already not a sustainable species. They don't benefit nature in any way. We just keep them around because they're cute. Which, granted, sure, they're cute. Whatever. Okay. We talked about armadillos and sloths, and then I went off on a tangent, verbally abusing pandas, koalas, and sloths. Okay. There are two different ways you can look at evolution. Okay. There's the Darwinian model, which is kind of I always forget that I took these out. Okay. Darwinian model, also known as the gradualist model. If I have a bar graph here, and this is time, and these are evolutionary changes as your environment is changing, the Darwinian model says changes are constantly happening over long periods of time like this. Okay? So that's your Darwinian model. Then you've got your punctuational model, which came about after the development of the Darwinian model, okay? Where people say things stay the same unless there is a massive evolutionary change, and then there are changes as a consequence. So as time goes on, things will barely ever change or not change at all, and then the environment changes, and that's going to force lots of change rapidly. Very similar to the catastrophist system that people believed in for a long time. In reality, it's both of these. That's my opinion. There are people who believe mostly in this and people who believe in that. More and more scientists hold that it's more of a punctuational equilibrium sort of thing. Okay, so if this is my punctuational model, let me use a different color for this other one. Let's see. Orange probably won't show up on the camera very well. Let's use green. Is green going to work? Green also will not show up on the camera very well. Purple will probably look like black, but it's the only one that's dark enough to show up, okay? So for most of time, yeah, there's going to be kind of gradual change, and then there's going to be periods of more change. Always moving forward, never stopping. But there are going to be periods when, yes, there is, as a requirement, more evolution occurring as a result of the need for more changes. Okay? Never ever stopping though. Okay? Everything has a common ancestor when you go back far enough. You and I have a common ancestor. I guarantee everyone in this room ties back to me within the last 12 or 13 generations. I've tested this. So there are people who are really into family history. Okay, my family is one of them. Okay, I don't contribute much to it, but my parents, my grandparents do. We have thousands of years of family history in an online databank, and lots of other people in the world do as well. I've done this, where I've gathered a group of people together, had them all download the app, and then we look at how we're related. And not once have I ever met a person who is more than 15 generations removed from me.
So you could be like somebody's 15th cousin or something in here?
Easily. My wife is my 10th cousin. And we grew up in completely different parts of the country. That's an ancestor we have in common from 203 years ago. Okay? I randomly someone who I never met in my life, yeah.
So like, don't like family members are not like with like special needs.
Oh, okay, no, it's a valid question. You're talking about the issues with interbreeding, right? That's absolutely true. Give me a second and I'll come back to that, okay? That's a good genetic related question, okay? Only once have I ever done this, and with a person that I had absolutely never met before, again, who grew up in a completely different part of the country from me, ended up being my third cousin. Totally random, and yet there we were. Like, that's just barely far enough apart. Like, I went to family reunions with second cousins. I never met any of my third cousins. Like, that's just barely far enough away that we never went to the same reunions as each other, right? You never know. But I've never met anyone who's more than 15 degrees of separation from me.
Test these things.
Again, you have to have done a certain amount of family history, right? So if your family hasn't ever put any of their records in here and you're not tied to anyone who has, it's difficult to test it. Okay. Now your question about genetic issues with interbreeding within families. This is actually a thing. Genetic variation is so important, my friends. If you just keep copying the same genetics over and over and over, the genes start to break down. Okay? The genes will start to break down without additions of variation. A very common example of this, English royalty. Have you ever heard anyone make fun of the English and their teeth? Okay, that's not a reflection on the English themselves. More often, it's a reflection on the pictures that are of the English royalty. Their teeth, all sorts of crooked. Some of them would have like really bad skin like conditions, right? They would have very bad health, right? A lot of Old English royalty would die early on, and there would be a lot of, unfortunately, dead children at birth, because for hundreds and hundreds of years, they believed that no one else was worthy or able to join the royal family except the royal family. Cousins would marry cousins. There were even brothers that married sisters as a consequence of this, which means that your genetic profile starts to break down without the addition of new variations. Okay, so you're absolutely right. It does lead to that. There are island communities that have gone completely extinct because of this concept. Okay, as a matter of fact, and this was actually something that was recognized long time ago. There were civilizations, especially like Polynesian island civilizations, where they would make a point of going and bringing brides back from other islands because they knew over the course of time, they had learned, if you just breed with the same people on the same island forever, you get sick, you get dead. So they would go to other islands and say, hey, your daughter's going to marry my son. This person over here is going to come and marry your daughter over there, right? They would share lineages to keep things healthy. They learned this over time. Very important genetic concept. This happens in nature too, by the way. Sorry, has there been a lecture where I haven't gotten excited about something, right? My master's thesis was about fossil ostracods. Ostracods are some of the tiniest crustaceans in the world. They are what's called parthenogenic, which means that they can switch back and forth between having two sexes and one. Their population, by default, only has one sex. They reproduce asexually, which means that an ostracod will produce its own eggs, fertilize its own eggs, and then lay those eggs, and those eggs will each give birth to an ostracod that is more or less a genetic version of the parent. This works until the environment changes, and then you need to adapt. What happens then? All of a sudden, a portion of my ostracod population will switch to being male. And then there is a two-sex system where they will start to breed together to introduce new genetic variation, which will allow adaptation to the new environmental parameter. And that way they survive. It's mind-blowing how nature manages to make these things happen. The environment or the evolutionary adaptations to solve these problems is remarkable. Okay? Great question. Thank you for asking that. Any other questions? Okay, so what I was about to say. Everything has a common ancestor back to a certain point. You and me, you and a tree. Okay? You and me, maybe within the last couple hundred years. You and a bat, maybe 50 million years, right? You and a tree, maybe 600 or 700 million years. You and bacteria, a couple billion years. Or actually more likely, maybe 8 billion years, okay? Depending on how far back the Ediacaran fauna goes, which we will talk about later on, okay? At least 750 million years, but potentially even further than that. Did I do it again?
Yeah. They said,
I don't. They told me that you said it.
Didn't I say 600 or 700?
Yeah.
Was that close enough?
Yeah,
It's impossible for me to avoid this, people. Okay? Clearly, I am a victim of this meme. All right. Okay, but my point is, yes, sure. My point is, everything has a common ancestor, which is why when you look at the development of an embryo, we look so similar. Have you ever seen a chicken embryo or a human embryo at all? Check this out. Fish embryo, salamander embryo. Okay, so that's a fish, that's an amphibian. Tortoise, so that's a reptile. Chicken, so that's a bird. Human, mammal.
So we all start out pretty much almost the same.
We share the exact same DNA to a point. All of these embryos look virtually identical until the more specific DNA, the more recent DNA, starts to kick in. Chickens are dinosaurs.
They are?
I've said this before. Birds are the descendants of dinosaurs. Yeah. Chickens are birds. Ergo, chickens are dinosaurs. Remember that point. That'll be important in here in a minute. Okay? Early on, we all look the same because we share that early DNA. As time goes on and the embryo begins to develop more, we see the separation. Okay? Fish and amphibians look virtually identical still again. Right? Because they share a lot more in DNA in common with each other. Tortoises and chickens look a lot more identical because they share a lot more in common with each other. Humans aren't that much different. We have a few more obvious differences, but still relatively close to those. Later on, fish and salamanders still roughly the same, but not exactly, not the same to here. Same here, chickens and tortoises. Tortoise obviously has its shell, actually has a tail, all of that, but still very similar. Humans, much different. As time goes on, and the DNA inside each one of these organisms has more time to dictate the development of the body, that's where the differences kick in. But early on, we all share the same DNA. Very interesting, huh? Evolution, literally before your eyes. Evidence of the process of how we are connected to every other thing like this, vertebrates anyway, okay? All right. Now, who began the first studies of genetics? Well, we owe a lot to this guy named Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel was experimenting with plants specifically. He would use pea plants. Why pea plants? Well, because they have very bright, vivid colored flowers. It was easy to track. He got pea plants and they're also very easy to breed with each other in a controlled setting. So he would get pea plants and he would make sure that he had true, reliable flower colors. So he would get a pea plant that had, for 10 generations of pea plants, only given white flowers. And then he would get another pea plant that for 10 generations had only had red flowers. So he was sure, only white here, only red here, let's see what happens. He took the red plant and the white plant and he bred them with each other. And you know what he got?
orange.
No, he got a red plant. What does this mean?
More dominant.
There is something in plants and therefore all other living things that will either be dominant or not dominant, what we call recessive, okay? The red thing was stronger than the white thing in this case. So he took that red plant and he bred it with another red plant. And you know what he got? Red and white. What does that mean? The white, whatever it was, did not simply disappear. It was still there, carried inside of this second generation red plant. The only white factor in this whole equation came here in the first generation. It did not manifest in the second, but it did in the third.
So it's a recessive gene.
Right, but he didn't know what a gene was. He's actually the one that came up with that concept as a result of this experiment. Okay? There was just something that made it from there through this generation to this one. And this is where the concept of genes came from. DNA came after this point. Genes are the term that we give to that thing he identified that comes from a parent and is carried through generations. Yes? Yeah, sure. All right. It is mutations that change genes. Why does someone have red hair when no one in their family has ever had red hair? Mutation. Okay? Now, it's possible that there is a recessive gene from too many generations ago that people don't remember. That's a possibility. But red hair itself is a mutation that has been carried through generations. Blue eyes are a mutation. Green eyes are a mutation.
Are brown eyes a mutation?
No, brown eyes, as far as we can tell, are the standard. You want to know about an interesting mutation? How many of you are lactose intolerant? Guarantee it's more of you.
I drink milk all the time.
Doesn't mean you're lactose intolerant.
I eat
I am lactose intolerant. I eat that stuff. There are degrees of intolerance. Some people get sick. Some people just get mildly uncomfortable. Here's a fun fact. Most of you are lactose intolerant.
not me.
I can't say for sure, but it's more likely you are than you're not. You're treating it like it's something to be ashamed of. Here's the deal. Lactose tolerance is a mutation. The normal condition is lactose intolerance. Absolutely.
It's because back then we were not able to consume dairy.
No. Do you know what lactate is?
Like,
Like a protein.
In milk, there's this thing called lactose. Lactate is an enzyme that your body produces to digest it. We need it as babies because we drink our mother's milk, as does every other mammal. We produce this enzyme until about the age of 3, after which we cease producing that enzyme and we can no longer process milk products. That's the way it was for thousands of years, until thousands of years ago now, there was a mutation. A mutation that caused somebody to keep producing lactate after the age that they should have stopped. Now, in a normal situation where you just stopped drinking milk anyway, it wouldn't have made a difference. No one would have noticed. No one would have cared. It wouldn't have mattered evolutionarily. It could have happened many, many, many times before that. But you know what? In this particular case, it stuck. It was a successful mutation. The most likely scenario for why is because, as far back as we can track genetically speaking, it came somewhere from North Africa. There likely was some sort of drought or famine or both happening at the time. When you have goats and cows in your village and you are going through a drought or a famine, what are you going to do?
Eat them.
That's the dumbest thing you can do.
No, you're gonna breed them so you can make more.
No.
Milk them.
Yes.
That's what I said.
You don't eat your animals when they're producing something that you can eat.
I sell the fat.
Maybe you eat their offspring every now and then, but you don't eat the animals. You drink the milk. Now, when this happens before, people will get violently sick. But you know what? This one person, guy or dude, who got this random mutation to keep producing lactate, they didn't. They were able to subsist off the milk. They survived. They were able to pass on that gene. It spread through their village eventually after enough generations. And then from there, it moved out of Africa and into Europe and all those other places. Thousands of years ago. Today, this gene has only affected about 30% of the population. 2/3 of everyone on our planet are still lactose intolerant. Only about 30% of people here have that gene for tolerance.
Like, does that mean 30% of us are like that guy?
Or what?
30% of us are like
directly descended from that individual, yeah, whoever got that mutation, you go up far enough and you'll reach that person. Yeah. If you think, I mean, when I eat cheese or ice cream, I don't throw up like some people do. I get mildly uncomfortable, a little gassy, right? That's my degree of intolerance. I do not possess the mutation, but 30% of people on planet do. And you know what? It is a positive mutation. And eventually, more and more people are going to have it. There will become a point in time, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years in the future, when everybody on Earth has that gene. Okay? Okay. Any questions about that?
Yeah. So someone like they ate I forgot what it's like. They ate like food, like a burger, like the meat in it, and they got like sick from it. They passed the trait down. What effect?
Getting sick from meat has nothing to do with genetics. It has to do with bacteria in that meat.
Yeah, I think like how it get passed down. Like,
Being susceptible to a type of bacteria, most people are susceptible to about the same things. You and I will both get the flu. You can have a degree of susceptibility, but most people are still susceptible. I get the flu less often than my wife does, but I still get it sometimes. Yeah.
What about like that tick that gives you, makes you like allergic to red meat?
Alpha-gal.
The what?
Alpha-gal syndrome.
Oh, you can get a syndrome, but that's a result of something that the tick passes to you that affects your immune system, not a change to your genetics. Yeah.
Does that have to do, sir, with like human DNA?
Human DNA?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. All of this has to do with DNA.
Yeah, because I was like, I mean, that's what it looks like. You know, the assemblies and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It all has to do with DNA. Your genes are held within your DNA. Any change that happens to your genes is because of a change to your DNA.
The genes are those little lines in
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah. These here are essentially, you can call those your genes. And a change to those, radiation doing something to those, flicking them, changing them, knocking them out, reordering them, is a change to your sequence.
It's moving, like it's moving, right?
Well, yeah. And the manifestation comes from that DNA being used to build a person later on. Okay. So, for example, if I experienced a gene, I don't care. Maybe it's TMI. I can't have kids anymore. Okay. I will not be able to have any more kids for the rest of my life. But if I did, and I experienced a mutation today, that kid would have that DNA. None of my kids that have already been born will have a mutation that I am experiencing today. It can't get passed to them because they already exist. Okay? You understand that? It's like, it's obvious enough. I'm not going to make that example. Yeah.
My parents said that whenever my sister was younger, she's like 28 now. Whenever she was like a toddler, whenever she cried, her eyes were kind of like hazel or something. Is that like a mutation or something?
No, that's more likely a visual effect. Probably has something to do with the amount of water in her eyes and the light they were looking at her through. People's eyes don't just change color instantaneously. People's eyes change color over time. All of my kids were born with blue eyes. I was born with blue eyes. Everyone except my daughter has developed brown eyes now. My youngest son, he's 3. His eyes have gone from blue to steel gray, on their way to brown, like mine.
That can happen.
It happens to a lot of people. I was born with blonde hair and blue eyes.
When did that change?
About when I was 7 is when I went full on dark hair. And earlier than that is when I got my brown eyes. Okay? Again, that's not evolution though. That's your body continuing to change, to develop, to grow according to the DNA that you have in your system already. Okay? Yeah?
Why does hair color change?
Hair color most commonly changes as a result of your DNA. For example, in the same way that we share those embryonic states with other organisms, humans generally share similar growth stages, okay? So myself and all of my cousins, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. Okay? All of my 5 siblings and all of our cousins were born with blonde hair and blue eyes. But as time goes on, most of us changed to darker hair and darker eyes, while a very few of them retained the blonde hair and blue eye gene. We have blonde hair and blue eyes from our ancestors. We also have dark hair and dark eyes from other ancestors. As time went on, some of those genes became recessive in us, and some of those genes became dominant in us, and manifested as our bodies grew according to the DNA code that was prevalent in us. Same way why Diablo doesn't look the same way as his siblings. He had that unique combination that I liked. His other siblings have some of those traits, but not all of them. Yeah?
How many siblings does he have?
He was in a clutch of 7, I want to say. Okay.
And they're all like the same, right? They're all the same, right?
They're all the same age, but none of them look the same.
Oh, okay.
They all have different combinations.
Different,
Slightly different colors, slightly different patterns, yeah. And the same with all of us. None of us look the same as our siblings. It just depends on what DNA traits are prevalent in you, are dominant in you. Any other questions on this concept? If not, then let me tell you how we can cheat the system. Thank you for asking. How do we cheat the system? Huh? We now, through our technology, we have mapped genomes. Each genome, my friends, has trillions of lines of code to it. Over the millions of years that life has been developing here, each one of those changes resulting in a new line of code, trillions of lines of code in our genomes. But we've mapped it for the humans and for lots of other species as well. Because we've mapped it, and therefore we know where each one goes and we know what each one does, we can turn them on and off. This is called genetic editing. We use something called a Hox gene. When you are in your mother's womb, okay, or I should say when you were in your mother's womb, okay, and you first started developing, you would have genes that needed to turn on at the right time for you to start growing hair, start growing fingernails, stop growing the fingernails, stop growing the nose, start growing the brain, start growing this part of the brain. What turns things on and off? Gentlemen, what is it that turns things on and off? Hox genes, set on specific chemical timers. Turn on at this time, turn off on this time. Now that we know what does it and what genes control what characteristics, we can chemically turn on Hox genes and turn them off as well. And that's how we genetically edit stuff. And that's how you get something like this. This is a chicken embryo. What's wrong with this picture? It's blue because they inserted a chemical in there that makes the bones turn blue so you can see this picture better. What does this chicken have?
Teeth.
What else does this chicken have?
I can't know what that is.
There's a claws. It has a tail. This is a chicken. This is what happens when you turn on the dinosaur genes in a chicken.
Oh, look at that big old black dot on his head.
That's its eye.
That's an eye?
Yeah.
The eyes stay the same shape.
Yeah, the eyes fully develop in birds and a lot of other animals before the rest of the body does. Like us. Yeah.
So whenever we're born, we got these big old bulging
Yeah, yeah. Not when you're born. No, this is an embryo, okay? This is still months away from being able to get born.
Oh.
Matter of fact, this is about as far along as it is legal to let this go. We know how to genetically turn on the past characteristics. We can make chicken dinosaurs. We've known how to do it for decades.
Oh my god, we need to make a chicken dinosaur.
We know how to do it. We've known how to do it for a while.
Why don't
Do
they?
it and then just keep them small.
It's illegal. It is internationally illegal to fabricate a brand new type of life.
It's only legal if somebody snitches.
That's not how the world works, bro. It's not illegal until somebody snitches. That's not how it works. No, and here's the thing. You cannot make the exact same thing that went extinct. T-Rex genes are shared inside the DNA of these guys, or similar animals are.
Could we do this with human babies?
Why can't you
I'll get there.
shape it in a certain way that's not exactly like it, but it's still someone?
Because the only thing you can do is say yes gene or no gene.
Make it red or purple.
You can't go halfway, right? You can say you can turn on the teeth gene, but you can't turn on the teeth that look like this gene. It's whatever the teeth were, right? So you can make a chicken that has dinosaur characteristics, but my friends, it's still a chicken. It may look like a dinosaur. It's still a chicken.
So what noise would it make?
Oh, that's a very interesting subject. That's a very interesting subject. Yeah. Here's the thing. No animal that existed before T-Rex in that genetic line seems to have had vocal cords capable of roaring. Birds today, which are the descendants of the type of dinosaur that T-Rex was, cannot roar.
So you're
They
saying dinosaurs
quack.
walked?
If dinosaurs made a noise, it was either something like a very deep bird sound or a very guttural grunt like alligators do. So T-Rex would never have gone roar. It would have more likely gone
That sounds creepy.
either that or quack.
Yeah, hey, sir.
If a dinosaur is chasing me and it
Huh?
starts quacking, I'm dying laughing. I'm following
Yeah.
it.
No, listen to the sound that an alligator makes. That's the most likely sound that a T-Rex would have made as well.
Sir, make the sound of an alligator.
They sound like that. So the world would not have been filled with dinosaurs roaring. It would have been filled with growls, according to our best idea of it, based upon descendants and ancestors of dinosaurs. Okay, now, somebody asked me about how this can apply to humans. What do you guys think?
Hasn't there been already somebody that has like genetically like not like modified but like I think that changed their genetics a bit?
Yeah.
Well, if I had claws,
We've mapped the human genome. We know how to do it. And it's happened before. Usually people go to prison for doing it. Because again, you're manipulating human people with rights. Right?
It's not human yet. It's not like well it's human, but it's not like there yet.
I think you stopped because you realize this is going into dangerous territory. Very, very, very controversial territory about the rights that an embryo has in our world right now. Okay? And that is why it's illegal. Because it is extremely controversial.
so can we change the color of a chicken?
Change the color of a chicken?
Yeah.
Like to what?
Because like, you know, like dinosaurs, they weren't just white, right? They were like different colors and stuff.
How do you know?
They're Jurassic Park. The one.
How do they know?
But like, could we change the color of a chicken?
What gets fossilized?
Their bones.
So how do we know what color dinosaurs were?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Man, it seemed pretty realistic in Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park is fiction.
Anyways, can we change the chicken color?
If there is a gene to do so,
If we can change the bones, I feel like we can change the skin.
Color.
it's based entirely on what's in the genes, my friends.
Oh.
You can't just make up new genes. You have to turn on the old ones or not at all. And this is what I'm getting to when it comes to human modification. Human genome modification can only be done with genes that already exist. I can't just invent a gene for no cancer. I have to find a gene to turn on that would prevent that person from getting it in the first place, but it has to have existed in our past.
So since they turned the like the blue bone,
Making them blue was a chemical that they injected into the egg before they took this picture. Yeah, this is a picture of the embryo in the egg. And to make the bones blue so you could get the picture through the egg, they injected a chemical in there that attached to the bones.
That chicken is gonna be fossilized with blue bones.
It's not going to be fossilized. This was destroyed. You're not allowed to let these hatch. It's illegal. Now, of course,
wait, okay.
because we know how to do it, Of course, somewhere in the world, in China, Russia, or Montana somewhere, there's a farm with little chicken dinosaurs running around. I guarantee it. We know how to do it. Someone's doing it. But it's illegal still. Yeah.
We can just like hatch them and then.
I can do this in my garage for $10,000.
No.
Yeah, if I had the right machine. All of the resources I need to do it are online.
What's this machine called?
A CRISPR.
Guess we're gonna need it.
Yeah, if you had access to a CRISPR and $10,000 of equipment I can put in my garage. So a university that has a CRISPR machine, I get access to it, and then I just grow this in my garage, and I have a chicken dinosaur. It's illegal.
Yo, move it up.
No, but
So if that thing grew, right, like without like the features and all that, just like the chemical, would it be blue?
Oh, this thing would not, that chemical would prevent it from growing in the first place. Yeah. Okay. Human modification, though. One more thing I want to point out. This concept of genetically editing people for military purposes, it's very, very common in fiction, right? However, you can't just make up a superpower. You can't make someone shoot lasers out of their eyes. There is no gene for that. And nor is it physically possible. What you can do, though, is we have common ancestry with, say, chimpanzees. That common ancestor we have with chimpanzees had very long, very muscular arms. I can turn on the genes required for someone to be born with those.
So I could have been rich from birth.
Yeah, you can make an extremely muscular, still intelligent human person. And yeah, turn them into a super soldier. This is part of the controversy. Is that moral? You'd basically be changing someone from before they were born specifically for the purpose of it being a soldier.
So I can make like a mini Ronnie Coleman in my garage. Like from birth.
So there's a whole moral contingent to this argument, to this debate. Okay? We have not solved it yet. However, they are starting to use this concept for animals. Did you see the headline earlier this year where they announced this company called Colossal, which genetically edits DNA, announced that they recreated the direwolf? Do you remember seeing that?
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen.
Direwolves have been extinct for tens of thousands of years. Okay? They did not recreate a direwolf, my friends. That's the headline. The real science, they used a wolf, timber wolf, I believe, embryo, and they unlocked the DNA genes that the timber wolves had in common with the ancestor of the direwolf. Where the two species diverged, the timber wolf shared that in its DNA. They made a cross between the ancestor of the direwolf and the timber wolf. And they are calling it the new direwolf. But here's the difference. The direwolves will never be back. They are gone. So are dinosaurs. So is everything else that's ever gone extinct. They will never come back. We make near replicas, but the originals will never be back. By the way, Colossals, that company that made the direwolf, their next project, woolly mammoths. They have gotten the go-ahead to make woolly mammoth populations to repopulate Siberia and northern Canada, because the ecosystems up there have been in a lot of trouble since the woolly mammoths died off. The woolly mammoths used to eat all of the moss up there. It was a big part of their diet. And since they went extinct, the moss has been taking over all the ecosystems and killing off a lot of the other plants. So the idea here is, because presumably we helped kill the woolly mammoths, it is our moral imperative to bring them back to restabilize the ecosystem. Unfortunately for the woolly mammoths, we are doing this right as the world is heating up. So they're going to have to be born with less fur. They're going to have to give rise to a whole new woolly mammoth population that is capable of living in a warmer planet. But that is their next project. Their goal is by the year 2060 to have a herd of woolly mammoths in Siberia.
They
Can they do that
woolly
legally?
mice, didn't they?
Hmm?
They made like woolly mice.
Yeah, they call them woolly mice, which is hilarious. We don't need those.
Wait, that's a dumb.
Huh?
In the movie Avatar, didn't they like genetically change the humans?
In Avatar, they didn't, you mean to make them look like that? No, they grew clones of the species on Pandora and then put human minds in those bodies.
Oh.
Yeah, a little different. which cloning is a totally different subject, my friends. Cloning we've done for a long time. Cloning we've known how to do forever.
They clone me.
So you're saying
I can clone your body. I can't clone your mind.
Oh, that's kind of creepy.
I can make an exact copy of you.
We do not
Here's the
want-
problem,
we do
though.
not
If
want-
I get DNA from you right now, I can only grow a copy of you right now. It won't be a baby you. It will be, what are you, 17? 16? I'll have DNA from 16-year-old you. So I'm making a baby version of 16-year-old you. That's the problem we have with cloning right now. That's why clones don't live as long as the originals. You're basically starting them from the point of the age of the person that you collected the DNA from. So Tom Brady just came out and said that his dog is a clone of his old dog. It's absolutely sure. I'm sure that's correct. He can afford to pay for a clone of his old dog. His dog that he has now is a version of his dog at the age that it was when he collected the DNA for the cloning. I don't know how long that dog will live. Probably not as long as the original.
so what if you clone a baby instead of a newborn?
Then you get a newborn version and it will grow up at the full rate, the full pace.
Do you think they'll like think the same, like the exact same?
They won't be the same person. Which is why I said I wouldn't be able to get his mind. If we cloned a baby and then raised them in totally different environments, they would grow up to be totally different people that would look the same.
So they be twins, somewhat.
Only physically, right. If I raised one in downtown Chicago and the other one in rural Africa,
Okay, I have a theory.
huh,
Doppelganger.
write a book about it. I mean, that sounds like a great science fiction book. Okay, let's keep boogieing through. That fire alarm really put us down in time. Okay, speciation. I'm going to breeze through the rest of this so that we have a little bit of time for lab. Man, we only have 40 minutes left in class time. Yeah, you may. Okay. We've had a lot of really great side conversations, though. I'm glad you guys are getting so into this. It's exciting for me that you want to talk about this so much, okay? Speciation. You can only breed with someone in your own species. With a caveat. It is possible to have a child with something close to your species, but not in your species. But here's the definition of what a species is. A species has a boundary of successful breeding. What does that mean? Not only can you make a child out of breeding, but that child is also capable of breeding as well. All humanity, regardless of race, is capable of breeding with each other. That's why we're the same species. However, lions and tigers, you can get a liger. Lions and tigers are capable of breeding with each other and getting an offspring called a liger. You ever seen one of those?
Yeah.
Show you a picture? Remind me after this. We need to keep moving through. Okay? A liger, however, is sterile. Ligers cannot give birth or breed with anything.
Why not?
They're sterile as the nature of their genetics, which is why lions and tigers are not in the same species. They are near to each other, near enough to, yes, make a baby, but that baby in turn cannot make babies, meaning that lions and tigers, must remain separate species. You ever heard of a mule?
Yeah.
A mule is what happens when a horse and a donkey breed. They give birth to a mule. Mules are sterile. Therefore, horses and donkeys remain separate species.
Wait. So, lion, tiger make a baby, but like what's it called?
Ligers?
Yeah, they can make babies.
No, they cannot. They are sterile. If ligers were capable of giving birth to other ligers, then yeah, lions and tigers would be in the same species pool. But they are not. Therefore, they remain separate. Okay? That's speciation. That's the separation of species. Groups that are capable of breeding successfully with each other. Okay? Genetic drift is the term that we give it when mutations over time cause enough change that all of a sudden the group of organisms that come about as a result of that change can no longer breed with the original group. Horses and donkeys, of course, came from the same ancestor, but they have genetically drifted far enough from each other that they can no longer successfully breed together. Same with lions and tigers. Same with humans and gorillas. Okay? What? Yeah, I know what you're thinking.
What are you thinking?
Weirdo. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay. So, new species appear when enough genetic drift has occurred from the original population. Classic example, right here, just east of the Philippines, is an island chain called Palau. Okay? Palau is an old coral reef that was exposed during the last ice age above water. When it got exposed, it got isolated into a whole bunch of lagoons between these islands. These lagoons are all isolated from each other. This one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one, that one, all isolated from each other. One species of jellyfish got trapped in all of these lagoons when that happened. This one species of jellyfish, over the 12,000 years since then, or longer actually, it was probably more like 20,000 years ago that this happened, each individual pond, lagoon, has since diverged into a separate species of jellyfish based upon whatever the environmental parameters of that lagoon were. Maybe one was darker. Maybe one had more sediment. Maybe the types of prey present in each one were different. Maybe one got more or less fresh water than the others did. But the environments were different enough that this one species diverged into so many other different species present in these lagoons. Okay? I've used this term before, by the way. Whenever there is an extinction, afterwards there follows something called an evolutionary radiation, which is when all of the remaining life diversifies rapidly to fill in the empty spaces left behind by the dead animals and plants. Okay? That's a radiation. It has nothing to do with like solar radiation. It's talking about radiating outward, like large, filling in a space. Okay? Different term of the word radiation. Okay? So some trends we see in evolution over time. Things generally tend to, when they are being successful, get larger. Okay? Dinosaurs, as soon as they started being successful, they got big. What happened to mammals after the dinosaurs died off? What did they do? They went from being rats to being rhinos and elephants and these other massive whales, right? That's what happened. Things get big when they are successful. We already talked about punctuation versus gradual change. It only took 12 million years to go from the rodent-sized things at the dinosaurs, while the dinosaurs were alive, to having bats and whales. It only took 12 million years because of how quickly mammals started adapting to fill the niches left behind. Okay? Okay. This is what I was talking about before, evolutionary convergence. When things fill a niche, those niches, no matter what continents they are on, are going to be the same. So there is a niche in which wolves live. These wolves have evolved their bodies to be perfect for that niche. Guess what? In Australia, that niche exists as well. The Tasmanian wolf adapted to that niche. This is a marsupial. This is a placental, both mammals, but they have not shared continental space since the dinosaurs were alive. And yet, look at the similarities in body. Can you deny that those two bodies are almost exactly the same? They look very similar, even though they have been separated for tens of millions of years. Why? Because both organisms occupy the same niche, and there is an ideal body shape for that niche. Look at this. Flying squirrels in North America, flying phalangers in Australia. Same niche. Anteaters in North America, anteaters in Australia. Same niche. Moles here, moles there. Niche. Niches also exist through time, not just geography. Dolphins occupy this niche today. The reptilian version of them during the time of the dinosaurs, ichthyosaurs. You see the difference? You see the similarities? Before them, giant placoderm fish, Dunkleosteus, occupying the same niche through time. A certain body is preferential for each niche. And bodies will either change to fit that niche, or if those bodies already exist, they will change to fit the environment.
Fish had tongues.
What?
So what if fish had tongues?
What if they did? What makes you think they don't?
I've never seen a fish with a tongue.
You've never had fish tongue, bro? No, it's a delicacy. Huh?
Don't some parasites like eat a fish's tongue and then replace it?
Yeah.
They do have tongues?
It would be really hard for a fish to talk without a tongue. Okay. Extinctions, really quick. Let's talk about that. Extinctions are what happen when a large amount of life dies off. I'll talk about each of the major extinctions in Module 3. Okay. It was not until late in the 18th century that people actually started taking the ideas of extinction seriously. Mostly because it was hard for people with a hardcore religious background to believe that a god would allow so many things to die off all at the same time. Here we are. We have fossil evidence that this does happen. Okay? So, whenever there is an extreme change in your environment, what are some causes for extreme change?
Wait, what was the question?
What are some causes of extreme change in an environment? Weather is a short-term change. What? Huh? An asteroid makes a pretty extreme change in your environment, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. What else? What do we call weather in the long term?
The climate?
Climate. Okay? When your climate changes, pretty extreme. Huh?
What's the difference?
Weather is, it's sunny right now. We might have a storm tomorrow. That's weather. Climate is the world temperature has dropped 4 degrees. Right? That will cause extinction. A storm won't. Now, whenever a large number of things die off as a result from extinction, that's good for us that study this because that will leave us a lot of index fossils in the record, and we can use those index fossils to track changes through time. Okay? High extinction rates mean lots of index fossils. This is kind of an up and down that tells you when things were living and dying, living and dying, living and dying. Okay? Successful and death, and successful and death. See? Here there's an extinction in the middle of the Triassic. But there's a much larger extinction between the Triassic and the Jurassic. That's why we draw that line there. Here's the extinction at the end of the Cretaceous, right? That killed the dinosaurs. There are these things that some people call pseudo-extinctions, where in the fossil record, it appears that a species goes extinct. However, if you look close enough, what you'll actually see is they didn't go extinct. Their population was simply mutated and left the old body type behind. That's different. They did not die off. They simply were replaced by a new model. Does that make sense? So that's not a true extinction. We will see that for individual species instead of massive groups of organisms. Okay? Mass extinctions are when we get entire orders of things that disappear. There have only been 6 of those in Earth's history. Okay? Where you remember the kingdom, phylum, class, order, yada, yada. When orders go extinct, that's a mass extinction. Oh, here's a good question. Large animals tend to be more at risk by extinction. Why, do you suppose?
They need more food.
They eat more food. Good. What else?
They're like easy to detect.
Easy to detect?
Yeah.
Make it sound like something is hunting them, like aliens came here and they're like, ooh, it's easier to see the elephants than the moles, so I'm going to shoot those.
Yeah, like the humans will like go for the elephants.
Oh my goodness. Okay. What else besides the fact that they need to eat a lot of food?
It was question.
Why would large animals be at more risk for extinction than small ones?
There's
Because
not-
they're the food. There's not enough for all.
and then bird, and then
So, okay, so we're hovering around the food idea. Let's talk about the food idea. If your food starts to go away, you don't have enough for your big body to survive with, right? That's true. Here, let me cue you in on this. The larger the animal, the smaller your population size because of the food constraint. A standard herd of gazelle in Africa might have several hundred individuals in it. The standard herd of elephants, 20 to 30. If I had a herd of elephants, 200 strong, imagine the food that would take to sustain that population. It's unsustainable. So the larger the body, the smaller the population. Otherwise, they start dying off until they reach a balance with their food source. So if I have 1 million gazelle and 1,000 elephants in my ecosystem, statistically speaking, it's far more likely that my elephants are going to die off. So this is why larger animals are at more risk. Statistics and food sustainability are against them. And we are actually in the middle of a mass extinction right now, by the way. No, the Earth, mostly because of what we're doing.
That's why I'm
The Earth is on mass extinction.
Yeah, so Earth, we were already experienced global warming before humanity started contributing to that. But humanity has done a lot more than just pump greenhouse gas in the atmosphere.
I'm leaving the earth before that happens.
He's out of here. Not only is he lactose intolerant, but he's lactose tolerant. He's getting out of Dodge, right? No, we have overhunted, overfished. We have polluted water. We've polluted air. Chopped down forests. We have erased so much life on Earth. You want to hear a crazy statistic? Think of all the domesticated animals we have on this planet. Cows, dogs, cats, chickens, pigs, sheep, goats, camels, horses. If you took all that mass, if you took the weight of everything on this planet that we have domesticated, it makes up 90% of all living things on our planet. That's how much wildlife has died, and that's how much we have domesticated over the thousands of years. 90% of the total mass of everything living on our planet is stuff that we have made, or grown, or domesticated. It's a pretty sobering thought. Okay. That's all I got for you today, folks. Remember that we have our Exam 2 review at the for our Thursday discussion. So please bring questions. Please bring questions for that. Any other questions before I end this recording? You're going to go heat up your ramen? Do you have any other questions about the subject? Anything we talked about today?
No, I'm an interview.
Yes, we are going to do that. All right. No other questions? Then I'm going to end this recording here.